What's up everybody, this is Magnus here. After giving it some thought, I decided I wanted to make a video for you guys. This one's going to be a bit of a special one though, because it's going to be detailing something near and dear to my heart, as you've seen before, Space Marine. But in this case, I'll be going into detail of my own particular playstyle, kind of going through each aspect of it, my guns, my loadout, how I move, and basically bear it all for you, hopefully in the interest of training or just getting comments, critiques, or helping you guys out, help develop your own play style and kind of see how someone else has developed his own. So with that in mind, I hope that you enjoy what's to come, and I will do my best to be as open and as encompassing as I can be. And please feel free, if you have any questions, to leave a comment or just ask me in game or what have you, and hope you enjoy it. Alright, first things first, let's talk about weapons and loadouts. So here we have my preferred loadouts that I use in nearly every game. I have a pair of first spawn loadouts. Those are the weapons and equipment that I use when I'm first spawning in on the battlefield. And the primary one utilizes the Stalker Bolter and the Meltagun. I use this in games where I expect I'll have to play a berserker role, playing with little to no support, or if I'm anticipating heavy assault marine presence on the opposing team. It's the loadout I need to use when I feel I have to put the team on my back and fill whatever role we are lacking at a given time, be it long-range suppression, point capturing, clearing out enemies, and so on. Next up, we have my second first spawn loadout, which is more of an elegant battlefield domination tool. I use this loadout when I know my team will be able to support itself as a whole, and I can dedicate myself to being a true sharpshooter. That isn't to say I abandon my typically aggressive playstyle, but the style shifts from being a straight tempo role, which the Melta lends itself to admirably, to a battlefield control role. So, those are my two first spawn loadouts that I will use again when I'm first spawning into a game. Now we're going to move on to the what I like to call reactive loadouts. These are ones that I will switch between as the game progresses and circumstances change rapidly on the battlefield, be it an annihilation game where I need to get in on some friends who are using their teleport homers, or an seize ground game where we need to assault an enemy spawn point, or if we're behind and I need to defend a point that's under assault. Here we have my first reactive loadout. This one is very similar to my primary first spawn loadout in that it sports both the Stalker Bolter and the Meltagun. In this case though, I forego the improved Melta charge for rapid deployment, as that's going to be, of course, more reactive in a given game. This gives me similar capabilities in terms of flexibility on the battlefield. I can easily assault points, fend off assault marines, as well as utilize the Stalker for long-range battlefield control. I'll use this again if I feel I'm in a spot where my team is going to need a lot of support and I'm not going to be able to work as effectively in a coordinated team, and in that regard I need the Meltagun to fend off close enemies and be able to rapidly transition from short to long range as I engage targets at many different distances. Next up in the reactive loadouts comes the pure Stalker Bolter, or I guess the first in the reactive loadout line of pure Stalker Bolter loadouts. This one uses rapid deployment, teleport homers, and blind grenades. This one's the wild card, I'd say, in my loadout repertoire. The primary use of this loadout is if we're behind and we need to get a good tempo boost or get some of our team in areas where we're needed. That's why I run the teleport homer, of course. And the blind grenades are there so that I can capture a point if I'm under fire, and I just need to buy some precious time or to sow some confusion. And in this particular build, you have the generic battlefield control that the Stalker Bolter utilizes, as well as some nice chaos creation. if you're running around kind of hitting people from left and right with the Stalker, if you're constantly on the move. That coupled with blind grenades makes a really stressful environment for your opponent. And to top it all off, the teleport homer, if your teammates are aware of it, they'll spawn on you, and it just can create a nightmare for your opponent if played correctly and if your opponent doesn't know how to properly handle it. This next loadout is my primary when I'm respawning onto the battlefield. This consists of just the Stalker Bolter, with Rapid Deployment, Larriman's Blessing, and frag grenades. The Rapid Deployment loadout with Larriman's Blessing is used when I'm facing pressure when redeploying, and likely either won't be able to utilize more than 40 Stalker rounds, or I'll be in close enough contact with the enemy that I can scavenge some ammo. This loadout utilizes Larriman's Blessing in order to stay active for as long as possible, without the use of a quick dispatch tool such as the Meltagun. Since this loadout stresses close quarters mobility, along with the mid to long range pressure, being able to heal quickly after taking damage allows me to surprise enemies engaging me from cover, as well as increase my survivability when holding contested ground. Now, this last Rapid Deployment Stalker loadout, on the other hand, is something of a finishing blow loadout. I won't use this to spawn on any contested points, since it provides no close support benefits. I'll use this loadout when our team's ahead, and I either decide to play a zone defense over a mid-map objective point, think like Alpha on Hab Center, or when I've been killed and need to keep the momentum in our team's favor by providing them with fire support as quickly as possible. The additional ammunition is essential for this fire support control role, since I'm rarely anywhere near the front lines and ammo drops are pretty scarce. Now, with all of that out of the way, next up comes my preferred methods of using a tactical marine on the battlefield. Specifically, I'll be detailing movement such as specialized combat roles, strafing with the Stalker Bolter, feints and lures, using the camera tier advantage, and so on. Further, I'll discuss the mirror match and how to deal with some of the harder opponents up front, where they're better equipped for close range than you are with just a Stalker Bolter. Think people with Meltaguns, Storm Bolters, Assault Marines, and so forth. In this way, I hope to impart my own point of view for being effective with the loadouts you've just observed, and provide you with a window into a tempo-oriented mindset for your own matches. First up, let's talk about rolling. Overall, your simple combat roll with a tactical marine isn't too hard. To step things up a notch, however, you want to adopt something known as the barge roll. This technique is a staple of my playstyle, as it is with many other notable tactical marine players throughout the Space Marine community. In order to execute this maneuver properly, start off with your basic shoulder barge, that is, hitting your melee attack button while sprinting. From here, you want to hit your roll button just before that shoulder barge animation finishes. By doing this, you can propel yourself forward a little farther and provide some unpredictability in your movement path. Further, you're able to perform this roll directionally, allowing you to tightly roll around corners to escape enemy fire, get out of the way of an assault marine, or even turn completely around 180 degrees. What's critical for being able to turn in whatever direction you want is to quickly jerk the mouse where you want to go, exactly when you hit the roll key. In this way, you can time exactly where you want to go with that barge roll. Next up in terms of movement is the Stalker Bolter Weave. Now, this takes a little bit of practice to get down, but in principle, it's moving side to side or in randomized directions in order to make you a more difficult target for opposing Stalker players, opposing last cannon players, or just harder to hit in general. As you get more advanced, you'll probably adopt all sorts of movement in your small space that you're going back and forth, but in this case, you want to pay attention to keeping your reticle focused in the middle of your opponent's model while you move back and forth, and try to pick up on how your opponent's moving as well, so that you can track him with your mouse independently of your own movements. Like I said, it takes some practice, but it's essential if you want to be proficient with the Stalker Bolter. Next up, I'd like to go over a topic that's pretty fun in this game, and if used correctly, you can trick a lot of people. And what I'm talking about here is, of course, using feints or lures to bait people into thinking that you're doing one thing and actually doing another. So, an example of this would be running inside of a doorway when you're under fire, and then turning around immediately and popping the guy who's running up behind you. He's thinking, oh, I have this guy on the run, I can press the advantage, finish him off. What he's not expecting is for somebody who is in a weakened state or is being hunted down to go on the offensive. Other examples of this would be, let's say somebody is coming up to your left or right or even behind you. He's got something like combat stims activated or a Meltagun, hell, even a Storm Bolter, something like that, where he's going to sneak up behind you and catch you unawares. And if you can position your camera properly, you can force him to take the bait in order to kind of attack you. And then as you're watching him approach, you will react to how he's going to attack you, and then finish him off while he's caught off guard. Another good time to use a tactic like this is against Assault Marines, who are either not expecting it or you notice to be overly aggressive. What you need to do is, again, be near some sort of overhang or an entrance to a tunnel or something that's going to give you a little bit of concealment, because typically your Assault Marine's going to jump up, see a tactical Marine running who likely doesn't see him. Of course, using your camera and being vigilant, you'll be able to notice these things and be discreet about them. And in that way you can bait them to land on you, just as you're getting into a bit of cover or whatnot. Right after you've done that, you turn around and you hit them with everything you've got. That's going to make most of them off balance because they're not expecting a tactical Marine to even see them. Never mind to be ready and waiting to turn around and hit them with an attack of your own. Now, in terms of a Stalker Bolter or Meltagun mirror match, there are a couple things you're going to need to keep in mind so that you can stay on top of things and make sure that you're still favored, even if you're technically in a wash of a competition where you're equal to your opponent in terms of loadout. So, first things first, you'll want to remember the rock, paper, scissors of your engagements. So, when you're running the Stalker Bolter, Meltagun, and Bolt Pistol, your Meltagun is going to trump the Stalker Bolter, and the Bolt Pistol is going to trump the Meltagun, and the Stalker Bolter is going to trump the Bolt Pistol. And that's the little cycle. In terms of how to picture that mentally, if someone zoomed in at you with the Stalker Bolter, it's very easy to keep rolling left and right, varying your movement so that they're going to have a very tough time hitting you with the Stalker. And then you get in and melta them. Now, conversely, with the Bolt Pistol, you can stay zoomed out and moving backwards if someone's approaching you with a Meltagun. You can keep plinking him over and over again until he just falls over, his melta shots barely doing any damage as you're out of range. Now, if your opponent moves to a Bolt Pistol, well, Stalker Bolter's rounds are going to hit a lot harder and be a lot more accurate than the opposing player's Bolt Pistol. So as long as you stay on top of your rock, paper, scissors, you will more than likely come out on top. And last but not least, that brings me to the topic of how to deal with the assault players, not just assault marines, but also people carrying up close and personal weaponry. Your Meltaguns, your Storm Bolters, your combat knives with combat stims, things of that nature. A lot of times you'll have to battle them with a Stalker Bolter when you're using a loadout that doesn't have a Meltagun, and there's certain tips and tricks to keep in mind in this regard. You're certainly not favored, but you're far from helpless in these situations. So what you're going to want to do, and what's key for every engagement of this type, is to be very alert and to get off a shoulder barge as quickly as possible. Your objective is to stun the opponent and then rapid fire, zoomed out, your Stalker Bolter until the opponent is dead. As you know, Stalker rounds do a very high amount of damage, usually between 3 and 4 body shots to kill, and after a shoulder barge, you'll have greatly reduced your opponent's shields to where 2 to 3 shots will fell an opponent, and you'll be able to rapid fire those off at close range in under 2 seconds, hopefully in a quick enough time that you can dispatch your foe and relocate to a new firing position. So, now you've seen all the basic pieces of what puts my playstyle together, and this is what I would recommend to anyone looking to play as a tactical marine who wants to use these loadouts. But don't forget, a lot of these same principles apply, not only to other tactical marine loadouts, but to the game as a whole. Remember, you always want to stay mobile, you always want to be vigilant and keep an eye out for your enemy, and there's always plenty of times for you to take advantage of either an over-aggressive enemy, someone who's not paying attention, or you can always do your best to fake somebody out and trick them into an advantageous situation for you if you keep yourself thinking quickly, and if you can get a good grasp of the battlefield and your surroundings, that will be an enormous advantage to you in these multiplayer games. So, what's going to happen next is I will commentate over these principles in action. Alright, so in a seized ground game like this, I usually head straight to Bravo, and as you'll see, the loadout I've chosen is the Stalker Melta with rapid recharge on the Meltagun. I'm going to keep my focus with the Stalker in the top right hand corner there of Bravo, just in case there's an enemy with the Stalker. So I'm hit from the side, I have to adapt and take him out. I make sure nobody's on my 6. Then I see Rusty going to the left, so I go right. I miss, so I have to back off and feint as if I'm going into the tunnel, then double back. I see that Rusty's going up the back side, so I'm going to do a pincer move and go to the near side. This guy spawns, I know I can kill him faster than he can kill me. I check the right corner. I feel bad about that, but anything else would just be instant death if I ignored him. Finish off the one guy who's sitting there. And then I help Rusty out. Since I'm pretty weak, I take some time to get my shields recharged. I give him some help, and I'll drop the nade there because I anticipate the assault marine to land. The only reason why I'm sticking in so much here is because I'm not familiar with the other guys, so I figure that between the two of us we can handle them. So I'm regrouping over here, trying to stay out of line of sight to get my shields back up. I figure that they're at Bravo looking down that back ramp. So I'm going to come up behind them, surprise them, take out as many as I can. Unfortunately, I didn't kill both assault marines there, so that was my mistake. So that's a good tempo move. Normally the allies would have got other points by now, considering how long we held them up at their home, but can't have everything. So I'll respawn now with the Stalker Bolter loadout, try to pick off their sharpshooters, I guess, that they have sitting on the gantryways. Try to control the middle a bit. And since I'm facing some opposition up the gut, I'm going to try to hit Delta. Now, I like to try to hit from this side because I have some support over here and I don't hear any people on the point. Fortunately, we can't hit all the time. So, with just a Stalker, we have to resort to our barges and our grenades. That should have killed him, but, you know, welcome to lag of space movie. So, we'll respawn with the Melta again. Due to the lagginess I saw there of the assault marine, I figured that bringing the Meltagun back is a good idea. So it's always good to scan to see who's up top. I try to get out of the way because I'm not really in that much of a condition to have a Stalker duel, even if the guys are kind of new. But I'll see if I can sneak up without them seeing me. I take a quick check to see who's there. Oh, the last cannon's there. Take him out. Typically, if you were doing this properly, I would have got more headshots there. This guy, Melta beats Stalker, as you know from your rock, paper, scissors. Now, I'm prepared to take a dominant position here. So just anyone who comes out, I feel confident that I can beat him in a head-to-head. So that's why I'm exposed. I'm confident that I can kill them before they kill me. So I'm out of ammo here. I see one, if not two guys coming out. Time to move around and hit him from the side. I've already decapped B, so they're going to focus on recapping it, and my initial job is done. This was a bit of a mistake. I didn't know he was a Devastator at the time. I thought he was just a regular tactical marine, so I'm in a bit of a tough spot. It ends up getting me killed. If you weren't being so aggressive, I would have recommended just doubling back or rolling back down there without even trying to shoot them. So respawning onto Charlie with the Stalker. Seeing that there's some fire at Delta. There's too many people here, but we spread out. So give a little bit of fire support, but since I'm seeing that, you know, half our team's heading to the point, no use in me being there as well. So I'll head over to their home point. So, too late for me to run from this guy. Might as well do what he's not expecting and charge him. Hit him with a grenade as well, finish him off with the Stalker. And get blindsided. It happens. And this time, again, I go with the Stalker. Finish off quick. I know he's wounded from just spawning in. Double check to make sure the point's clear. I think someone's coming up from underneath, so that's why I checked that left. And I see someone's on Delta, so I've got to support there. But again, since it's not under heavy contest and we have some other people moving that way, I'm going to focus more on their home point. I like to constantly keep the pressure on, especially in maps like this. If it's something like an open map, like a Hab Center or whatnot, where I can actually give fire support between the points, then I might stay back. But here, you really need to keep aggressive. So yeah, this is demonstrating there's no reason why you need to completely rely on the Melta to handle Assault Marines. You can definitely do it with the Stalker. I mean, it's not as easy, but it's definitely doable. And they're bit off a bit more than I could chew, 4 people on you at once. You just try your best to get out of there, but it doesn't always work. Notice how I'm always keeping mobile as well. You want to make yourself as hard of a target as possible. So I want to head off a Melta threat coming down from under here, as I saw, action or heard action underneath there. Try to finish that off. Luckily I do. It's always hard to hit some people. Let's see. Scanning around, he's in cover, so that means I'm not going to be able to finish him quickly, so I want to redeploy, get to a better angle. You never want, even against the lower level players, you never want to engage for too long because it just draws the attraction of, or the attention of so many other players. So even if you could beat the person head to head, even if they are being very coy around a corner, it's generally not a good idea. You leave yourself open to getting hit from the sides. So here I assume that most of your Assault Marines are going to be a bit overly aggressive. Let him land, be prepared for that, and then just Melta him to the face. If he had been running impenetrable and I didn't kill him, then that would have been followed up by a shoulder barge. So here, making sure that Charlie's actually clear. It is. And, oh, somebody's on Delta. But we have targets of opportunity to our left. So, in the spirit of clearing the midway, for my allies, I want to get rid of one of them. But there's a whole congregation of them at Delta, so I try to thin that out. I'm anticipating the jumper to land there, so... And I was half right. He landed just behind the pillar. And he's heading to our home point, so... Unfortunately, my aim is crap, so I kept missing him. But that's what allies are for, as you'll see right here. Rusty finishes him off, so... You want to tie up the loose ends in cases like this. I usually won't do it myself, I'll delegate, but in this case, when I'm not really familiar with the whole room, I'm not sure who's going to be up for that or not. So right here, I'm deciding where I'm going to attack. I figure since StarCraft looks like he's heading towards Charlie, that I'm going to try to take him out there, and that's the game. And there you have it. A detailed overview of how I use the Tactical Marine class in Space Marine. I hope you are able to take something away from this video, and that it can help you in your own games. I'd just like to say that I'm thankful for the community of fellow gamers who have helped me hone these skills in the game. I've received priceless knowledge and insight from the friends I've made in Space Marine, and this production wouldn't have been possible without each and every one of you. I'd just like to take the time to say thanks. If you'd like to know more, or if you have any questions, again, please don't hesitate to leave a comment or ask me if you see me in game. I look forward to seeing you on the battlefield.